What's up everyone? Colten Montgomery here. We're partway through the 2021 season and I want to show you guys what I've been throwing and what will most likely be in my bag for the remainder of the year. All right, to start off, let's start with my putting putters, the money makers. I putt with Exo Hard Links. These are very comfortable in my hand. They have a little bit of a bead, which is comfortable, and the plastic isn't too hard or slick. It's just, in my opinion, the perfect amount of tackiness. And yeah, I've been putting with these for a little over, I think almost 2 years now, and I'm just really liking them. So yeah, Exo Hard Link is what I'll be using on the putting greens. Moving on to the throwing putters. First up, I've got an Exo Soft Link. This is gonna be my straightest, most neutral throwing putter. If I need something to turn right off the tee, this is definitely what I'm gonna be throwing. And then when I get close to the basket, this is what I find most comfortable in my hand for those short approach shots. So Exo Soft Link, definitely one of my go-to approach discs. Next, I carry two Exo Soft Tactics. Different levels of beat up. First, I've got this fairly new one, my most overstable. This will be throwing off the tee on forehands and backhands, just something that can fight the wind, and I know it's always gonna have that reliable finish. And then last for the throwing putters, another Exo Soft Tactic. This one's really beat up. It's hit a couple trees in its life, and I just like this for something in between that overstable tactic and that soft link. This is a very nice medium for that. It just goes super straight with a little bit of left finish. So yeah, this is gonna be the other throwing putter that I have in the bag. All right, going into the mid-ranges. Currently, my mid-range lineup is very simple. I carry one not so swirly MD5. This is super flat. It's gonna be what I'm using as far as a mid-range to fight the wind. Be throwing this backhand, forehand, and just super trustworthy. And I know that pretty much no matter what wind, this thing's gonna wanna get left or right, depending if I'm throwing it forehand or backhand. Then after the MD5, I carry four methods. This has been a disc that I've just really been loving all this year, loving the way it feels in the hand and the flight characteristics. First up, my most overstable. This is the Primal Neo method. It's got the sweet lure die. You'll see this on a bunch of my discs throughout the bag. But this is pretty overstable. I can hit it pretty hard and it's gonna go nice and straight with the reliable left finish. Not near as overstable as my MD5, but something that's, you know, can fight the wind without dumping left, and I can still get some distance out of it. The next method I've got is an Exo Hard. This is brand new in my bag. I like to filter them in and out of my bag, you know, depending on the stages of wear. So I always like to have a brand new one. I can hit this thing really hard, throw it almost full power, and it won't turn over. It'll stand up to flat depending on the wind, and then it'll have that little gentle left finish. But this one's so brand new that it won't really turn over to the right. Again, we've got another Exo Hard method. This one's pretty beat up, but it's probably my straightest flyer. I can put it on a little bit of hyzer, watch it pop up to flat, maybe a little bit of turn to the right, and then it'll always try and finish back to flat. I'm really liking this one just because it's the most neutral flight. I can put it on a little bit of Annie and it'll always hold that gradual turnover. So I'm loving the method right now for a good reason. I have a lot of them in the bag. And then the last method I've got, this one's pretty cool. It's got this die on the front and then my Monty logo on the back. Another Exo Hard method. This is probably my most beat up one, definitely my most flippy. It's kind of like an Origin at this point. I can put it on such a big amount of hyzer and it just pops up to flat and then continuously rides to the right. So more of a utility disc or when I'm in the tailwind, but anything that I need to get right on a backhand shot, this is gonna be the disc that I'm throwing. Now onto the fairway drivers. This is actually a pretty weird spot in my bag right now. I don't have that much of a variety. To start off, strictly a utility disc. I'm sure everyone's heard of it. The Tilt, Simon Lizotte signature disc. This thing is just the craziest, most overstable disc that you could ever imagine. It doesn't get thrown that much, but when I need it, I'm very thankful to have it. It honestly, it just does stuff that no other disc thinks about wanting to do. So the Tilt, it doesn't get a lot of love, but when I do use it, I'm very thankful that I keep a spot in the bag for it. Next up, I carry 3 FD3s, different seasoned, different stabilities. First up, my most understable. This is a Color Glow FD3 with my Lone Howl stamp on it. Got a little chef special there. This thing is not really even an FD3. It's super straight. It even turns over, but for my forehand, this disc feels really good and it flies straight. So this is kind of something more like a PD, slower PD, but definitely doesn't fly like an FD3. Next up in the stability, we've got an old Lizotte FD3. This thing's board flat, super stable, and again, for those forehands and backhands, it just feels really comfortable in the hand without any dome, and it fights the wind. There's not a lot of winds that I find will turn this disc over, so anything like under 400 feet that I need to turn left on a backhand or right on a forehand, be reaching for my FD3s, and this one's about middle stability of my FD3s. The last FD3 I've got is Glow. This is the most overstable one I've got in my bag. No wind is gonna turn this over. Kind of a utility disc, you know, there's not a lot of shots that I need to turn that far left, but you know, when the wind picks up, definitely a disc that I'm thankful that I still have in the bag, and for those little forehand chip approach shots, feels great in the hand and gets the job done. And the last fairway driver I have is a Primal Neo Essence. Again, this thing's strictly a utility disc. It's super flippy. I'm not much of a roller thrower, but anytime I need a roller, this is gonna be the disc I'm aiming for. And you know, when we get in the woods, this is that disc that you can throw super soft on a hyzer and just watch it pop up to flat, turn over a little bit. So again, a disc that I don't throw a ton, but when I do throw it, I'm very glad that I've got it in the bag. Let's get to my favorite part of the bag, the power drivers, PDs. My personal favorite, I'm bagging 5 of them right now. First off, I'm carrying this 13th run, super board flat, overstable. It's beat up, but it hasn't lost much stability. When the wind picks up, or I need something to go far and left, this is gonna be the PD that I'm grabbing. The main reason I'm loving this mold is it has a small rim in the hand, but it gets the distance of a distance driver. So the PD, there's a good reason I carry so many of them. Next in the stability, I've got a brand new Lone Howl 2. It's got an awesome beefy die on it. And this thing is one that I can throw really hard, pretty much on a beeline, but I always know that it's gonna finish left. It's never gonna turn over, and it'll have that reliable left finish. And the PD is something that I've really been loving on the forehand grips. So you'll be seeing me throw these Lone Howl 2s a lot on a forehand. Up next, another Lone Howl 2, maybe my favorite Lone Howl 2 or Lone Howl that I've got in general. This one's special. It was dyed by Rec Disc Dyes. It's got that awesome Jumpman logo on the front and then MJ shooting the ball on the back. Just so cool. And to make it even better, this thing feels like butter in the hand. It's nice and beat up. and it has lost some stability, but the thing I'm loving about it is I can hit it really hard, and unless it's really windy, it's just gonna go really straight. It's not gonna turn over, and I just kind of feel like I can do whatever I want with this disc. So this is a very valuable disc in my bag right now, and I'm really loving it. Another PD, this one's also dyed by Rec Disc Dyes. This was the very first original Lone Howl that was ever dyed, and it's actually the only OG Lone Howl I've got in my bag at the time. Super old, beat up, but again, it has lost a bunch of stability, but it's super easy to throw right now. I don't have to put a bunch of power on it to get it to go flat, and even when I do power up on it, it's not something that's gonna burn into the ground. So very useful and just an easy to throw PD for me. And last in the PD lineup, I've got another Lone Howl 2. This thing is like, it's different than all of the Lone Howl 2s that I've thrown. This one's very, very flippy. Right out of the box, it was one of the most understable PDs that I've ever had in a bag, but I really like the use of it, you know. I don't bag many fairway drivers, so with the assortment of overstable to really flippy PDs, I feel like I can cover any distance really, just powering down on the disc, and this thing has been very useful and valuable to me, powering down on those PD shots to get the fairway distance. PD in general, got a lot of them in the bag, and I just love the way that they feel, so yep. I'm carrying 5 different DD3s, starting off with the most overstable. I've got this 175 Seahorse stamp. Manny Trujillo knocked it out of the park with this custom stamp I did earlier this year. And this thing doesn't really fly like a DD3. It's one of the most overstable ones that I've ever thrown. Super helpful fighting the wind, you know, when you want to get that extra distance, but you know, your other DD3s are a little bit too flippy to fight the wind, but you need more than a PD2. This DD3 is what I'm gonna be reaching for. Pretty much anytime there's a headwind, this is the DD3. Up next, I've got a Cloudbreaker 2. This one's fairly new to the bag. I'm loving the way the Cloudbreaker 2s feel in the hand, just the plastic and the stability. They fly really well. I'm able to put this on a little bit of hyzer and watch it pop up to flat. And yeah, it's just one that's not really burning into the ground, and it has a really nice flight. So good on forehands and backhands. Next DD3 I've got another Lure die with my Monty stamp on the back. This thing's super domey, and it's an absolute crusher. Forehand, I feel like I can throw it a mile, but I can't. And backhands also feels really good. This is one that I can put on a good amount of hyzer and watch it stand up to flat, maybe turn a little bit to the right and then come back. But this is like probably my main go-to distance right now. It feels amazing in the hand, loving the dome, and yeah, my go-to distance driver right now. Next, I'm carrying another Cloudbreaker 2. This one's a little bit newer than the other Cloudbreaker 2 I've got, but it's got some bubbles in the rim which make it a little bit flippier for me. I really like a flippy DD3 so I can put it on a lot of hyzer, throw it hard and just watch it stand up and really get max distance. So this one's one that I throw a lot on forehands just because I don't have that much power on the forehand, so this one stands up for me. And yeah, just a nice, not super stable, but just easy to throw DD3. And last but not least for the DD3s, the only non-max weight disc I have in my bag, it's 171 grams. This thing's pretty beat up, and it's kind of a utility disc. It's so flippy, so understable that unless we have a crazy tailwind or I need to drop down a crazy roller or a flippy forehand shot, I won't really be throwing this that much, but it's one that there's no other DD3 in my bag that flies like it, so I'm glad that I keep a spot in the bag. And yeah, again, it has my Monty Seahorse stamp, and yeah, with all 5 of those Cloudbreakers / DD3s, I feel like I've got every level of stability to fight the wind. All right, and last are the PD2s. I'm carrying 3 PD2s. My most overstable, the Luster. It's domey. This thing is crazy. It's borderline like a tilt. You know, I don't throw this and ever worry about the wind turning it over. So very useful, especially when the wind picks up or I need something that just finishes really hard left, but still gets some distance. So the Luster PD2, you know, definitely the wind fighting disc that I've got in my bag. Next, I've got a Blizzard stamped, is actually 175 PD2. This thing is really overstable. The thing I like about it is I can power on it as hard as I want, and I really don't have to worry about it turning over. It gets more distance than the Luster, and because it's not as overstable, but it's not one of those PD2s that I ever have to worry about turning over. So just useful knowing that I can still get distance without turning over with this one. And the last PD2 I've got in the bag, this is from one of the newer runs. It's not really all that overstable. It's kind of like a slower, more overstable DD3, but I'm liking it for like a power forehand that I never have to worry about turning over. And Lure again, Lure discs, they did this awesome die with their mini logo there on the back, which I think is just a really cool touch. And yeah, I mean, this thing just flies good, consistent. When I get in a tailwind, I never have to worry about it turning over. So yeah, the PD2, something that I throw a lot in the wind. It's super trustworthy, and I always know what they're gonna do. All right, that's a wrap for my 2021 in the bag. I just wanted to show you guys what I have been throwing and will continue to throw for all of 2021. I hope you guys enjoyed the little insight of how discs fly for me and why I throw them. And yeah, huge shout out to Discmania, OTB, Grip Equipment, and all the artists who have some dyed discs in my bag. And thank you guys for watching, and remember, don't get mad, get better.